Late word just in. The path of destruction continues east, causing thousands to flee their homes. Police admit that they are powerless to stop the enraged beast. Military units are rushing to the scene. The beast was last sighted near the 200 block of Old Fulton Avenue. We now go to live coverage on the scene with our helicopter reporter, Kelly King. Kelly.
We're now hovering above the wreckage of a crushed L train. The helicopter beside us is searching for... Wait! There's a tram load of people down there. We've got to go down and warn them. Attention, people on the tram. You are in danger. Repeat, you are... What? No, we have to go down and help them. Behind us, where? I don't see them. No, where? Oh, my God! Ah!
The trooper crashed on the bridge!
Hello and welcome to Theme Park History, the channel for everything to do with theme parks, old and new, big and small. In today's episode, we will be taking a look at Universal Studios Florida's Kongfrontation, a dark ride attraction that opened at the park on June 7, 1990 and closed on September 8, 2002. This has been our most requested attraction on the channel so far, so thank you to Ian Garcia, Michael, Christian Maganos, MK1 Monster Ock 1989, Juanurita, Rick Stick Grimes, Glennis Lanza, Alexander the Great 515, Velociraptor for You, Randall Johnson, Robert Stoll, Austin Wainscott, Terrell Parker, Diane Butler, Auntie Lucero, Sean Moran, and KN Tactics for all of the comments. As always, if there's any attraction you would like us to cover on the channel, leave a comment down below. You never know, your suggestion might be next month's video. Inspired by the 1976 film King Kong and the King Kong encounter on the studio tour at Universal Studios Hollywood, Kongfrontation was part of the original lineup of attractions at Universal Studios Florida when it first opened in June of 1990. Considered by many to be the crown jewel of the park, Kongfrontation was one of the most ambitious attractions ever developed by Universal, combining movie-quality sets, massive animatronics, and a custom ride system. Kongfrontation helped usher in a new era of theme park entertainment. While the 40-foot-tall ape was responsible for the revitalization of the Florida park being built, its closure also changed the way that the park would operate forever.
Universal Studios tour, and this time, he wins.
Just like with Jaws and Earthquake, the origins of Kongfrontation started at Universal Studios Hollywood. On June 14, 1986, the King Kong encounter opened as part of the studio tour. Designed by legendary Disney Imagineer Bob Gurr, the 30-foot-tall King Kong animatronic was a massive hit on a Universal Studio tour, and helped put Universal on the map as a destination for theme park entertainment. The 4-minute experience was a spectacle that left guests talking, and the larger-than-life encounter stunned the industry. As we've mentioned in our E.T. Adventure and Back to the Future the Ride videos, Peter Alexander and Steven Spielberg met when Alexander was working on the new King Kong figure to be added to the tram tour days before its grand opening. Spielberg was so impressed with the lifelike Kong he asked Alexander to come up with ride concepts for Back to the Future. Spielberg would eventually sign on as a creative consultant for Universal's newest theme park, Universal Studios Florida. Between the success experienced by Universal Studios Hollywood following Kong's addition, and Spielberg signing on as a creative consultant, the concept of Universal Studios Florida was revitalized. Essentially, the success of the King Kong encounter was one of the main reasons why Universal Studios Florida exists to this day. The Florida attraction would be built from scratch, finding its home in a 62,000 square foot show building 6 stories tall. Without the constraints of a tram, Universal had the freedom of a blank slate in exactly how guests would experience Kong's destruction and rampage. The ride system would be designed by Aerodynamics with Totally Fun Company, headed by Alexander, and Universal Creative developing the ride. Alexander would flesh out the story of the ride, which would involve guests boarding a tram in an attempt to escape from King Kong, who was on the loose in New York City. As for Kong himself, 4 years allowed for more advanced technologies and design processes. 2 Kongs were created for the ride, both scaled to an astounding 40 feet tall with 54-foot arm spans. Both analog and digital controls gave the figures unprecedented functionality, unlike the one at Hollywood. While Hollywood's figure was a brilliantly simple one that gave guests the illusion of intricate movement, Florida's 2 apes would be almost within the guests' reach. During one of the encounters, Kong would actually pick up the tram and drop it. Months of painstaking testing were required to make sure the drop would be safe for guests. To determine how fast to drop the tram, a test rig was created. Alexander himself wasn't afraid to go hands-on with the testing. Alexander volunteered to try it out, being dropped at a full free fall before stopping just feet from the ground in the soundstage. He would require double hernia surgery as a result, and the creative team decided to definitely tone down the fall. Carried over from Hollywood was also Kong's famous banana breath. Alexander's father, an aerospace engineer, suggested using an impeller, the rotating part of a centrifugal pump, to blast the smell at riders. The banana juice used to create the effect was acquired from a woman who sold fragrances, with a small device holding it until the moment when Kong's mouth opened and a burst of it was sprayed towards the riders. Alexander would have one last touch on Kongfrontation. His voice, pitch shift downwards, was used as Kong's roar. Kongfrontation would open alongside Universal Studios on June 7, 1990. Like Earthquake and Jaws, it barely worked on its first day of operation. Plagued by downtime as engineers tweaked with the ride's complex system, software, and animatronics, Kongfrontation was so unreliable that Universal offered free return vouchers to guests all summer long. It wouldn't be until October 9th that Universal finally declared Kongfrontation was out of technical rehearsals and operating reliably and at full capacity. Guests entered the attraction through a facade recreating Pennsylvania Station in New York City. Inside the massive show building, guests would find themselves in an elaborate set simulating a New York subway station, Manhattan's Roosevelt Island tram station, and the surrounding city block intricately detailed from garbage cans and graffiti covering the walls. Overhead television monitors display a special news report entitled Kong on the Loose. Real-life news anchor Roland Smith reports that King Kong has escaped its confines and is wreaking havoc on the streets of New York. Kong has already destroyed 2 elevated trains and is rapidly approaching the East River, with authorities powerless to stop him. Guests make their way to the elevated Manhattan station of the Roosevelt Island Tramway. Upon arriving at the station, guests board an aerial tram vehicle. There, a live guide aboard the tram informs them that they are being evacuated off of Manhattan Island and over the Roosevelt Island to escape Kong's attack. The tram's radio is tuned into the police emergency frequency so that guests can be informed of Kong's location in the city. The tram travels above the streets of downtown New York City, where guests view Kong's path of destruction. There's a water geyser from a broken fire hydrant, broken steam pipes, crashed and overturned cars, and a subway train partially derailed from its elevated track. A police chopper describes the scene around the tram over the radio, alerting that Kong is approaching the tramway and he is grabbing onto a power pole. Kong's silhouette can be briefly seen as a spotlight shines on a building ahead of the tram. As the tram passes the power pole, it tips over and its electrical transformer explodes, unleashing a shower of sparks and fire, which ignites the derailed elevated subway train. Approaching the East River, the tram encounters Kong hanging from the Queensboro Bridge. A police helicopter hovering nearby opens fire on Kong to protect the approaching tram. Kong retaliates by pounding on the roof of the tram and sending the chopper crashing, exploding into the bridge. Narrowly escaping the attack, the tram crosses over the river to Roosevelt Island. A second helicopter hovering nearby shines a searchlight directly at the tram, blocking the view of what's ahead. The tram operator urges the chopper to turn off the light, and in doing so, reveals that Kong has cut the tram off. Kong proceeds to grab, lift, and drop the tram after being fired upon by the police helicopter. After narrowly escaping the enraged beast for a second time, small television monitors lower from the tram's ceiling, and guests watch themselves on the ride as part of a breaking news report as the tram safely makes its way into Roosevelt Island Station. Although Kong was never actually defeated, the news report indicates that he is making his way from New York City, ending the threat. Guests exit the attraction into a King Kong-themed gift shop called Safari Outlet. Outfitters. There, a photo opportunity booth is located where guests could pose with King Kong, who appears to grip them in front of a Queensboro Bridge backdrop. The attraction was an instant hit with guests, as hourly ride capacity were said to be huge. When the park opened, wait times would consistently exceed over 90 minutes, and guests would line up to come face to face with the mighty Kong. As Universal had hoped it would be, Kongfrontation became the crown jewel of the brand new theme park, an attraction that was like any other created at the time and would be talked about for years to come. Beginning in 2002, Universal started a reimagining of the Florida theme park. Desperate and determined to convince audiences to visit the park after the failure of Universal Studios' Escape, Universal set out to redefine the park as a place where guests could ride the biggest blockbusters of today. Management wanted Universal Studios Florida to become the home of the hottest brands, the most popular stories, and the biggest box office hits. In order for this to happen, Universal's classic attractions would have to close down. Kongfrontation would be the first of the classics to be closed down for Universal's new push for popular properties. This closure would set a new precedent for the park. If Kongfrontation, once considered the crown jewel of the park, could be closed down, then no attraction at Universal Studios was safe. Kongfrontation would officially close on September 8, 2002 in order to make room for its replacement, Revenge of the Mummy, the ride. There is an Easter egg in the attraction. As the ride vehicle is going through the throne room filled with treasure, if guests look towards the front of the room on the left, they will see a small statue of King Kong. So why did the attraction close? While no official reason was given to why the attraction was closed, rumors stated that high staffing and operation costs of the ride, plus its complex and high maintenance of both the ride system and the animatronics were to blame. Kongfrontation would be the first of many of the original Universal Studios Florida attractions to be retired and replaced, including Earthquake the Big One, Back to the Future the Ride, and Jaws. This wouldn't be the end of the eighth wonder of the world, however. On May 6, 2015, Universal announced King Kong would be returning in an all-new attraction at Islands of Adventure, Skull Island, Reign of Kong. Officially opening on June 13, 2016, guests travel to Skull Island, where they journey into the heart of the jungle, escaping attacks from prehistoric predators and fearsome creatures, and eventually come face to face with a brand new King Kong animatronic. While the new attraction is popular with guests and is one of the most technologically advanced rides Universal has ever created, fans of Kongfrontation haven't been as welcoming, stating Skull Island isn't as fun or colorful as the original. While opinions might be split on the new attraction, everyone can agree on one thing: it's a nice sight to see King Kong back at Universal Studios. Kongfrontation is an attraction that sticks in the minds of many Universal Studios Florida fans. With two of the most lifelike animatronics ever created, Kongfrontation was bright, dynamic, oversized, and a fun and exciting experience for all guests. The wild romp through the city's destruction and the eventual encounters with the giant ape were on-ride photo ready, and represented the height of Universal's innovation in storytelling, set design, and special effects. So that is the theme park history of Kongfrontation. As always, thank you for watching the video and supporting the channel. Don't forget to subscribe, and if there's any attraction you would like us to cover in future videos, leave a comment down below. Once again, thank you for watching, and until next time, just remember, it wasn't the mummy that killed the beast.
It was beauty killed the beast.
What do they got in there, King Kong?